Today we got a little over a 4.5 hour training today. This morning was a 9-mile run. Now I'm on the trainer. We have 3.5 hours on the trainer. This is how I spend most of my Mondays, or at least for the last couple months. But right now we are in the final stage of this prep. We're close. And we have been putting in work for months now to get to this point. But not to get to this point to slow up or give in. You know, one of my favorite things that my good friend Chad Wright talks about is the 1 mile out mindset. And he says so many people put in the work for so long, whether it's a prep or you're pursuing this goal, this ambition, or even within a race itself. You get 1 mile out, you get 90, 95, 99% of the way there, and then people become complacent. They give in. The work has been done. You begin to coast to get to the finish line. And I love what Chad talks about, the 1 mile out mindset of catching yourself in these moments, because we all have these moments. We all have this temptation of weakness to set in, where you have to identify that you're sometimes tempted to take that bait, coast to the finish line for that last mile, take it easy. But no, this is the opportunity. This is the point where you get to make the decision. I get to make the decision that when I'm 1 mile out, when we're in the home stretch, lean in, hammer down. Don't let up. Stay focused. Stay dialed. Put in the work. Commit to honoring your prior commitments. This is where that faith and that perseverance is tested, which ultimately produces the greatest form of endurance. Okay, so this morning we're knocking out a swim and we're gonna wear the wetsuit. I haven't worn the full wetsuit for many swims thus far in this prep just because it hasn't been cold enough, but I will be wearing this wetsuit for Ironman Arizona because it will be cooler and the projected water temperature is 60 degrees. So I wanna make sure I get a couple swims in with the wetsuit in preparation because it is a different swimming experience, especially with the full sleeves. You get some shoulder and kind of upper body restriction. So it's just getting comfortable again wearing the wetsuit in the water. So we have a 1 hour swim this morning. But something I was thinking about on this morning's run because today's training session, I had a run this morning, I got to swim, and then I got a bike this afternoon, a VO2 max bike session. When you go into a prep like this, an Ironman prep, it is very time consuming and energy demanding. And the deeper you get into a prep, your why has to be very defined and clear to maintain that discipline and desire to keep putting out massive efforts and maintain consistency. And for me, and I'll get into this a little bit deeper after the swim, I love training. I've loved training. I've loved this lifestyle for many years now. It is a big part of my life, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And what I really enjoy about it is the commitment that's required to endure the process. That's why I like these preps. That's why I enjoy these builds. That's why I like putting a race on the calendar for which I have to train for and stay committed to. And in the beginning of this prep, I talked all about commit to honoring your commitments. And I like that personally because it tests me, it challenges me when I'm tired, when I don't feel like doing it anymore, when I lose some of that motivation. That commitment that I know I made that conscious decision in the beginning of prep, maintaining that commitment the whole way through, that's really important to me. And I love that little challenge throughout the way. But at the same time, I get a lot of fulfillment in being an example to other people, my children, the BPN team, you guys who are watching these videos, to be an example to show what commitment looks like. To show up every single day, day after day, in this case for 18 weeks, leading up to a competition or a race or just something you put on the calendar. I get a lot of personal fulfillment and joy and satisfaction out of that. That's what drives a lot of my why. That's what drives my continuous, ruthless ambition every day to keep going, to push. That's why for me. But after the swim, I'll share a little bit more of what was on my mind last night as I was in the Word, specifically in the book of Ecclesiastes, and then this morning on my run. So I wanted to share this and talk about some lessons and principles coming out of the book of Ecclesiastes. My mindset around my why has evolved and transformed, especially throughout this Ironman prep. If all things that we work towards aren't rooted in glorifying and honoring God, we will be led to dissatisfaction and emptiness. This is one of my favorite books of the Bible. And the first chapter kicks off with everything is meaningless. Everything is meaningless outside of and away from following Christ? What do people gain from all their labors, at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets, and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and it turns to the north. Round and round it goes, showing that just day after day after day, everything is the same. And then verse 12, I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear him. If I'm being honest, I started doing a lot of these fitness preps years ago. It ended up becoming part of my identity. And I felt like I had to keep going from prep to prep to prep and to perform, because it was my identity. It was how I measured my worth and my value, to continue striving and performing. And I got caught in this rhythm of, without these preps, without these races, without these competitions, I didn't know who I was. That was my identity for a long time. And I share that because I believe that there's people on the other side of this video that are watching it right now, maybe it's you, who are in the same boat and position, where you've created your identity around this thing that you do, toiling, just like the book of Ecclesiastes talks about. Toil is meaningless. Where the meaning comes from is a greater purpose. It's following Christ. That's how my life has changed. That's how my life is transformed for so much good. To be so much better. To have satisfaction, to have peace, to have joy, to have rest. To not feel like I have to perform and strive because it's part of my identity, but because I want to, because what I can get out of it and what I can teach people and help people with, what it shows my children as they grow up. That's how my mindset has transformed, through this prep and looking back over the years. These preps, fitness, striving, performing, it's no longer my identity like it used to be. My meaning, my purpose is ultimately rooted in something deeper and greater. It's not a something. It is a someone. It is him. It is Jesus Christ. I think it's really easy to go into these preps and asking yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice? It becomes a selfish question. But the reality is that a lot of people in your life, they sacrifice as well. whether intentionally or unintentionally. I know right now, deep into this prep, my family is feeling and sacrificing my physical and mental presence, my full physical and mental presence. I know that the boys in the back of this golf cart right now filming, Landry, Trevor, Yoli, they sacrifice as well. They're up at 4 a.m. like I am to come film a 5 a.m. run. The team, it's a family effort. And the question you have to ask yourself is not what am I willing to sacrifice, but what am I and the team, I and the family going to sacrifice intentionally and unintentionally in this process. That's sometimes a really hard question to ask yourself, and honestly, to be real, because sometimes in your depths of it, you and the people in your life have to make sacrifices that you didn't mean to and you didn't want to. But when you're committed, you know you're gonna see it through. That's part of the growth. That's part of the breakthrough. That's part of the unlock. Personal growth and professional growth of realizing the changes you know you need to make and you want to make on the other side. So this being the last video of our Ironman prep YouTube series, the next big video we launch will be the film premiere of the Ironman race itself. So this feels like a good way to close it out. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, a time for everything. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. See you guys in the next video.